Hello. Okay, here's the clay. This is harder than I thought. All right, here we go. So I'm going to do a demonstration of working on the potter's wheel blindfolded. I'm going to start by wedging the clay. Usually I weigh out my clay so I know how much I have, but that won't do me much good today. So I'll just do it by feel. That's a good amount. So wedging the clay prepares the clay. It also kind of puts you in the right frame of mind for working on the potter's wheel. So I'm just going to concentrate on that, and then I'll start the demonstration. This is something I've done so many times before that it really is just sort of memory, muscle memory. Pretty familiar with the room because we've been in this building for 3 years now. This should be the first wheel, second wheel, and here we are. Okay. Hopefully my cameramen are set up. Find the middle of the wheel. Put the clay down. That's the first part. Okay, switch it on. Find the foot pedal. Okay. So the first part of throwing in the potter's wheel is centering the clay. So I'm going to work on that. So a lot of pottery is actually about feel. I tell my students sometimes that it's not so important how it looks. I can tell if clay is centered just by how it feels. And if it's moving through my hands without wobbling, then I know the clay is centered. So centering is one of the hardest things for my students to understand. I think a lot of times they're using their eyes too much to focus on whether the clay looks centered and not does it feel centered. So I think it feels centered. It might not be perfect, but let's go ahead. And now I'm going to open up the clay. I've created an opening. I'm going to draw the clay out. And usually I check the bottom. There we go. Having a little trouble finding my tools. So to check the bottom, I put a pin tool in. And I can check the depth to see how thick the pot is. That's pretty good thickness. I'm going to continue pulling out the walls a little bit. And again, my technique is not going to be perfect today. I hope just to be able to make a pot. I feel a little air bubble, a little air pocket in the clay, which is unfortunate. Must have been because I didn't wedge the clay properly, or I didn't put it down on the wheel properly. So now I'm going to start trying to make the pot. So here we go. Let's slow it down a bit. I'm trying to flatten out the bottom before I continue. Once I pull up the sides, I won't be able to reach the bottom. It's always important to take care of the bottom of the pot before you bring up the walls. So working with clay is really all about moisture. You see, I continually wet the pot if I feel it's too dry, and sometimes it can be too wet too. So I'm continually adding or taking away moisture. And I could feel that this was starting to go out a little bit, so I'm bringing it back in. Hopefully bringing it back in. I'm doing something called collaring, and this is actually one of the rare times where I put both of my hands on the pot. Most of the time I'm working just with the clay between 2 points on this side, slowing the wheel down as it gets taller. Yep. So I want to try to use a rib on the outside. Sometimes after doing this for a while, even though I don't see the pot, I'm feeling a little bit dizzy. By the way, this is only the second time I've ever tried this. So I think that with practice it would be a little different. Feels a lot bigger than it is. It does. Okay. All right, so maybe now I'll start to shape the pot a little bit. So I'm going to try to actually, I'm going to bring the top in a little bit first. And now I'm going to belly out the bottom a little bit and try to create a shape. This is where, if I'm going to mess it up, it probably will be now. Try to get a sense of what the form is, but I don't really have a good sense of it. Just going to finish off the top and then see what we have here. So I'm going to bring it in here, and then I'll flare it out at the top. I will trim the top though, that's always fun. Seemed to work. Always think about the lip of the pot. And how it ends. All right. So there are parts of this where, like right now, I would love to be able to see what I'm doing. Maybe if I get down lower, I can feel it. It's definitely influencing how I work the bottom of the pot. All right. I won't worry about that. I think I achieved the purpose anyway. And let's give it a final look.
Yes. My sister told me like.
Okay. I think it's done.